Well, I think again, it's the same answer in a sense that it's still the people.
Sure.
So the greatest joy is the people, and the greatest struggle is the people.
Yeah.
Because there were a number of stories where it's like, oh man, I am really frustrated with this person or these people, and it's hard to, and I remember when I first started, which seems like a long time ago. In some ways, 12 years is a long time. In other ways, it's not. But when I first started, so I was 23, and I'm 35 now, almost 36. I had a few people come to me asking for my credentials from Briarcrest, what courses I took, they were fishing to see if I was actually qualified.
Sure.
Now, on some level,
their qualifications.
Yeah, whatever they thought was qualified. And there was one for sure that was, they thought a youth ministry degree was a bit of a sham. And I could understand where they're coming from in a sense, but it was almost like I had to go, yes, I've studied the Bible while I was at Briarcrest. And so, there's those kind of things that really can wear you down.
Yep.
And there's this level at which you have whatever the number of congregation you have, it feels like they're all your boss.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that just, for pastors today, they just have to actually know that that's not true and not let that happen to them or something. Yeah. But that, especially when I was young, I still am young, but it was like hard not to get away from that, especially when you work at a church. And I can see this as being now, especially one of the detriments of working at a church you grew up in, is you have these people who helped mold and shape you and mentor you. And then you become a pastor and you are not over them, but you are shepherding them, but they are...
And they have to try and shift out of the role of mentor.
Yeah.
Because if they still see themselves as your mentor,
yeah,
it would be difficult to submit to pastoral authority.
And I think some people struggle with that. I think on the whole, it went really well, and people were very gracious, and I felt heard, and I felt like people did respect what my opinion was on matters or leadership and all that kind of stuff. But there's always that there, mm-hmm. and I think you kind of hit a bit of a wall or a ceiling. So yeah, I think that's one of those things where it's like I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people feel the need to tell you how you're doing mm-hmm. constantly. So
they think it's helpful to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're coming from a good spot, most of them. There's a very small number that are like intentionally.
Is there something about a pastoral job that versus like a doctor or a lawyer or something where they think the average person thinks they have more insight to your job to offer you than like I'm not going to go to my doctor and be like, I think you're doing well at this, but you're lacking here. Like I don't have enough insight or understanding of the job to speak to that. But is there something that people with a pastoral job, they feel like they have a fair bit of, which isn't not true because, they've looked at the same scriptures, hopefully, and stuff, but like they feel they have more to offer.
Yeah, for sure. So I think your analogy with the doctor, more so than ever now, people go, well, like I know just as much as you because I read this internet
that is true.
Thing,
WebMD or whatever,
or YouTube video and stuff. Mm-hmm. Now that's still an outlier overall, but historically, I think for sure people go, well, okay, Ben's reading the Bible. I've been reading the Bible longer than he has, and now he's teaching me on it.
We were reading the same book.
Yeah, and some people go, well, the qualification level. Some people might think I'm more qualified mm-hmm. than actually Ben or Ryley or whoever the pastor is.
Yeah.
To do it. I don't want to be the pastor, but I have this. Or I used to be a pastor, and instead of giving good mentoring, coaching, mm-hmm. it's more critique or criticism. So there is that level, and I think there's also still maybe less, but with a doctor or a lawyer, there's a level of just respect because we know that it's not easy to become a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
Based on the fact of how many years of school
Sure.
and
That's
stuff.
a good point.
Whereas the pastoral role, you could have someone who's a pastor of a church who's never done any education.
Sure.
Now, most churches, I think, don't go that route. But then you have pastors who have a BA, so like 4 years, or an MA, which now they've up to 6, or MDiv, or on and on. And I don't know that they're necessarily respected on the same kind of level. And maybe they shouldn't be, because it probably is harder to do the work to become a doctor or lawyer than it is to go through seminary. I don't know for sure. But I think on some level they go, I'm not, and then that goes back to the thing, like, where did you get the degree? It's like, oh, that Bible college? Well, I know what they think about this, and this, so I don't really think it's reputable.
I mean, kind of nobody, too, like, if you're talking BA, like, nobody doesn't get into Bible college.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's like being rejected from going to Bible camp. It's like, no, we welcome everyone. So they're like,
for sure.
It's not hard to get into Bible college.
Yeah.
It's
and
like you went to Duke or something.
And I mean, obviously, I think after a BA, if a pastor has at least a master's or whatever, there is another level of like, okay, well, now the work is higher.
Though I would say even maybe in that, I think the average person has a better understanding of the rigorousness of med school than, I'm not saying seminary is equal to med school by any means, but I don't think people even have, the average person even really any kind of understanding of what we're doing at seminary.
Sure.
We might just be sitting in a room and sharing stories and feelings and where med school you can kind of picture, or law school, or you've seen enough shows, movies. Or something, you have an idea of what they're doing there. Yeah. Seminary, I don't think there's any concept.
Yeah. And I mean,
I don't know that people even equate seminary with college often. They're like seminary is a whole nother word. Like, what does that mean? You went to a divinity school? What does that mean?
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess is fair in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even with this new job I'm starting in January, one of the requirements they'll have of me is to get like a doctorate level degree in order to fulfill certain requirements. And thankfully, I'll only have to be enrolled and working on it to be able to do the work they want me to do. Mm-hmm. But the conversation I had with Marv Penner around this, who holds a PhD and so forth, said, well, if you're looking between a PhD or a D-Min, it depends what you're going to want to do going forward, because that will have certain connotations for people, right or wrong, of what you carry into the room.
For sure.
So if you have a PhD, it's like no questions asked about your reputable status almost, and especially if you're going to write books or study and different things. If you have a D-Min, you're still pretty heavy leaning into the ministry world. Yeah. And he even said to, I think it's fair for me to say that he said this, but he said it could even be a detriment in certain rooms that you have a D-Min, because they'll go, that's not.
You got a ministry degree?
Yeah, like what does that actually mean, or is that it's kind of hokey. And again, it's not that it's completely unfair what they're getting at. So I think all that to come back to the fact that when it comes to a congregation and how they view their pastor, it's not enough for a pastor to say, look, I've been to school for 8+ years, or I've even written this book, or I know Hebrew and Greek. They go, these are dead languages that I don't care about, or, whatever. Why does that even matter? And I mean, the work it takes, and I haven't done it, to learn these languages, only from other students that I went to college with, where they're basically in tears in their dorm room for how hard it is. It's just not there. So then I think there's a level at which people feel that they can speak in such a way. I think the people who get it more, and again, my experience at Gospel Chapel has been very positive, so it's not like this was the case besides a few people. But I think more so people go, okay, our pastor has a calling, and we're going to respect that calling because we feel like that's a calling from the Lord. And especially if that does line up with that shepherding care of the pastor, that they're like, oh, this guy should be a pastor, and they're not like abusive and crazy and whatever else. They respect the calling, I think,